Hey, welcome to I Was Just Thinking. I'm Rudy Maxa. I'm a travel journalist and broadcaster, and every 2 weeks we talk to someone generally always on travel topics, but we have a wide definition of that. I'm coming to you from my home in St. Paul today, and Tommy Danielsen is joining me. He is a business partner of mine and knows a whole lot about frequent flyer miles and hotel stuff and travel. And I thought it might be an appropriate time to talk about sort of the landscape of travel now, because it's just changed drastically in the last week, not just in the last, obviously, 2 years because of COVID, but now with the invasion of and going on in Europe, it changes every day. So I thought we might want to talk about it. So for those of you who are watching this later on YouTube, we are having a live conversation on the 3rd of March, 2022. COVID is still a factor, though countries and cities and schools and businesses are beginning to relax restrictions on wearing masks, on being closed or leaving tables empty between people. But it is the 3rd of March, 2022, as we talk today. A lot of what we'll talk about will be relevant beyond this week, too, but much of it will be focused on changes because of COVID and the invasion, the Russian invasion in Europe that is so changed traffic patterns. Tommy, let's start with this worldwide aviation landscape. I know, and you can throw in some more. I know that one thing I read was that England banned all incoming flights to their airports from Russian airlines, and Russia said, well, we're going to do the same to you. You can't fly into us. And then along came the EU with a big blanket, didn't they?
Yeah, the UK was first, and they've been the most aggressive and the fastest to move on anything in regards to Ukraine, from what I've seen. And we the United States just banned Russian planes from entering our airspace right after this. It was announced in the State of the Union by President Biden. So we were kind of one of the last of the Western countries to do it after the EU. But there's a funny thing here, though. The American carriers, except for United, had already stopped flying over Russia to begin with. So it was kind of like already too late. It was a point made, and just the only ones who were behind, who were still flying over Russia, was United, and everybody else had already left. So the carriers themselves have moved. Delta was moving faster. American, everybody was moving faster than the U.S. government, which is kind of interesting. So
Delta took its code share off its Aeroflot flights. They code share with Aeroflot, not anymore. And you told me today, just this morning before we were talking about today's broadcast, that the global reservation systems that travel agents and everyone in the travel industry use have removed all Russian flights from their data banks, basically, or at least made them invisible. Let's put it that way.
Right. So Sabre is the provider that Aeroflot, the Russian carrier, uses, and Sabre announced this morning that they have removed Aeroflot from their reservation system. So it makes it extremely difficult and virtually impossible for them to sell tickets. And in addition to that, I've got you. Maybe we can bring up looking at how much activity there is and what's really happening live right now in the airspace, because I find that kind of interesting. So I have Flight Radar 24 here, which gives a good indication of what's actually happening at this moment. And I'm highlighting a couple of things.
This is Europe?
This is, as you can see, Ukraine in the middle. And also the no-fly zone also extends to areas east of the Ukraine as well. Or not the Ukraine. That's made a mistake there. It's called Ukraine. It's not called the Ukraine. And the things I've highlighted here is at the bottom, you can see there is an Aeroflot airplane right here over the Black Sea. And it's obviously, it came from Istanbul. It's a Boeing triple. If you look down in the corner here, you'll see it's a Boeing 777, which is going to Moscow from Istanbul. So obviously Erdogan has not shut down the operation just yet there. it's flying around instead of going a direct route. It's flying around, as you can see, all the planes on the right, what the route is to go back and forth here, right?
So now that where there are no plane in normal times, would this whole screen be filled with planes?
Well, the area right here, I mean, it makes it the Ukrainian. This is like, you know, because of the war and because of the activities, you're not going to see.
Oh, that's
any
almost all
here.
Ukraine. I have you on my cell phone, so it's hard for me to.
Yeah. So the Ukraine is in the middle, and it's kind of we have surrounded. We have our stuff as well, as you can see here at the bottom. There's where my cursor is. If you can't see it, but the viewers will be able to see it. You can see there's a U.S. Air Force. I don't know if it's Air Force or Army, but there's a Black Hawk. It's the helicopter you can see here. And we also have, if we zoom in a little bit, you can see it closer. We have the loops around here. These are U.S. tankers that go around loop-de-looped here on both of these loops here to be ready. So I talked to my father-in-law, who is an Air Force colonel. We can see all, unless it's extremely vital, we can see all sorts of the U.S. carriers are not, or U.S. Air Force planes or anything are not allowed to turn off their transponder. Transponder makes it visible on radar, like we see here. And this is live, by the way. So we can see that there are two tankers. Actually, that tanker just left. So here comes its replacement down here. I just clicked on it. That's filling in for that. And these tankers, they don't do anything. They're just hanging around up there in case we have to scramble jets, or if the Ukrainians need gas on the outside of the border, or somebody, NATO planes needs gas. We are flying these tankers around the both of these loops that you can see. So
they're flying gas stations, basically. They're flying gas stations.
Correct. They're flying gas stations, and they cruise at 25,000 feet, which is the altitude where they're at. And they've been doing that for weeks now. And the Brits are also doing it. We can see various fighter planes go up every once in a while to patrol. And so we're pretty much fascinating. Yeah. So we're dominating these gas stations are, I haven't seen, I've seen one British fighter being refueled by their own, you know, the British have a little bit more modern tankers than we do. These are old Boeing 707s from like the 60s, right? That's new engines and everything's new on them, but still they're all very old planes. And they fly back and forth from the UK or from the Netherlands or from Germany 24/7 to make sure that in case we have to, the Russians' aggression continues, that we are ready. And, you know, I read this morning, there are like the U.S. Air Force and NATO, they are itching to get into this air-to-air battle and to do this thing. We could take out the Russian Air Force in the matter of hours here, right? So,
but we could also take that 17 miles of tanks out in about 2 minutes, probably, right?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of tanks, but we could at least definitely. It's easy to put a halt on a column, right? You take out the one who's in front, and then the back. There's nowhere to go, right? So,
right.
So yes, I mean, at the end of the day, this is all tragic, and of course, we are a responsible world superpower, and we're not going to do any sudden moves, or we're not going to attack. But you know, we're ready in case something happens, and
that's fascinating, Tommy. Fascinating chart. Yeah. That is really interesting.
Right. Huh. So,
and then there's
also what happened earlier this week is that all the plane that you're seeing here is being repossessed. The leasing companies in Ireland have been told by the EU that they need to terminate all the agreements with all Russian airplanes, which is out of the 750 planes that are registered in Russia for civilian airplanes, over 80% of these are leased, and they need to go back to the EU. So it's just, I think they got 30 days to return the planes. So Russia literally don't have any planes anymore either.
Do you think Russia will return those 80% of the planes that are leased from Western European countries?
I think so. I think so, because first of all, there is sane people both in Russia and everywhere else. They know that there's going to be something happening after this, right? If they disregard it and they go against the contract, then obviously that's going to have consequences in the future. That's the first thing. And the second one, 80% of Aeroflot is not flying anyways because they got nowhere to fly. Everywhere is closed. So that means they still have to pay for these planes. And I can bet you that there's not going to be any relief like under COVID. So,
right. And then then switching over to Asia, Western U.S. carriers and Asian carriers are giving wide berth to the Kamchatka Peninsula in northern Russia, which normally, if airplanes are flying to and from Asia, they like to go over the polar route because it's shorter going over the top of the world than around the fat part of the globe. But they're giving it wide berth now, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, the majority of these airplanes that are flying here are this is an S7, right? And the Chinese are still flying over Russian airspace. You know, you see that that thing is you probably can't see it on your phone, but that's a 777 from China Airlines that are Air China, I mean, that is
still flying over Russia.
Still flying over Russia, yes. So, I mean, it's complicated for us to serve some of these rights. Specifically, India is complicated. There are things that are happening. Korean Airlines, see, I thought they already changed their. I thought they already closed their airspace. Apparently not. There's a Korean Air one coming up, and you know, most of these planes that are flying are, you know, here's a Russia. That's actually a government plane, right? And you know, there are an enormous amount of planes that are flying underneath here, which I find kind of interesting. But yeah, there are it's a long way around Russia. Russia has the biggest geographical area in the in the world, and it's definitely making it complicated. But you know, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna take sides because I'm just gonna do that. It's just, we have to do this. They need to be brought to their knees, and this does not belong in a modern world. And I
agree. That's just fascinating, those maps. That's really, and especially seeing those tankers, the refueling tankers going around in ovals there. Just fascinating. I mean, do you think it's going to be months before this changes? I mean, I guess the last matters how long we're punishing Russia, basically.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're running out of money. They don't have access to US dollars. They are running out of food. They're running out of supplies. They're running out of everything. I mean, they don't have access to their cash. They have all of their reserves are overseas. They're turning the screws, and also, you know, like Bill Burr said, are they going to turn in their yachts? And guess what? We're taking their yachts. So all these oligarchs are obviously it's having an impact on them, and which is, you know, irrelevant. So it couldn't be less irrelevant. No, I think that, you know, I have no idea. I'm not a foreign policy expert by any means, but you know, as the sooner that that Putin, you know, throws in the towel, the sooner things can go back to normal.
Well, I don't know if you've been watching the news. You're 2 hours earlier than I am, so it's noon as we're talking. Well, 20 minutes. What time is it? It's 14 minutes after noon your time, because you're in California. It's 2 hours earlier here in St. Paul. So I was watching the news this morning, and Putin gave another one of his rambling monologues to a camera in which he says he's going to control all of Ukraine now. I mean,
does he sit by that table where he's sitting all the way at the end and everybody else is on the other side?
I'm sure the cameraman was far away. I'm sure he wasn't too close. I don't want to get too close to Putin and irritate him.
Right.
But you know, he's hanging tough and being Mr. Bully, and I'm taking over the whole place. Well, because of all the Nazis there and the genocide that nobody knows is going on except him. Anyway, not good. On the brighter side, some cruise lines are with the CDC's blessing, are removing masking requirements for most of the cruise. But I want to hesitate, but I don't want to hesitate. I want to say right now, if you're about to go on a cruise, check with your cruise line, because it's not a uniform thing. Some cruise lines are saying no masks. Some are saying we still want masks. Some are saying you have to wear masks in certain places and not in others. Every cruise line seems to have a slightly different rule. So if you are about to go on a cruise, don't take my statement as a blanket statement. Call your cruise line and say, look, or I'm sure they'll tell you before you board what the mask rules are, but take a couple masks with you. I'm sure the cruise lines will have them for you too. So that's a little bit of bright news. And if you happen to have a lot of British Airways Avios points, which for some reason I do, because I guess in my earlier life, when I lived in Washington, I flew British Airways all the time. Qatar Airways this week announced that instead of having their own frequent flyer program called Q Miles, they're now going to join the Avios family of British Airways miles. So that's sort of good news if you're a Westerner and you've flown a lot of British Airways and you want to try Qatar Airways, which is consistently ranked as one of the number 1 or 2 airlines, commercial passenger airlines in the world. That's good news, yeah?
Yeah, I think that it's quite fascinating that a lot of these airlines have used the pandemic, or any of the travel loyalty programs have used the pandemic to come up with smart things. And I mean, so Avios is already a flexible currency, and not only can it transfer over, or it's also the currency that Aer Lingus uses, and also Iberia, and the low cost carrier that IAG also owns, Vueling. They also have Avios as a currency, so it's good. I mean, it's like having US dollars, right, in all of our states here in the US. So it's it carries over. I haven't looked at the valuations, to be honest with you. I didn't know where we were going to talk about that. It wasn't on the list here until now, but I think that I haven't had time to look at the currencies yet. But of course, it's
1-to-1.
1-to-1, yeah.
1 Q mile for 1 Avios point, yeah.
Well, what about, of course, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be 1-to-1 because it's one currency. But redemption-wise, what's the value?
I don't think that Qatar has named that yet. I mean, has put that out yet. They just announced they were going to do it because it just happened right now. And the other good news, if you happen to like drinking and sitting in a flying bar, Emirates, the Dubai airline, has returned to their big jets, their big wide bodies, the upstairs bar for business and first class passengers. I mean, literally a bartender standing behind a bar with stools around it. Nobody is allowed you can't wander up from coach. They lock the door. It's the top part of the plane, and it's only for people who paid a whole lot of money. But you can have a cocktail while you're flying and standing up and chatting with your friends.
Have you ever been in the bar in the back there?
Never. Have you?
I have. I actually was in business class recently. I was before that guy sneezed, anyways. But I was very right before I took a flight from Gatwick to have a meeting with Emirates, and they provided a complimentary upgrade. And I was in business class, like right in front of that bar, and I hadn't slept in a day and a half. So for me, it was just a big party back there. So I thought it was a pain in the butt. But actually, I have a picture of it here if we want to share that, so people can take a look at it.
Was it fairly popular? I mean, were people, was it mingle?
Yeah, people are back there. They're having a good time, and it's definitely. I mean, the Emirates has. I don't know if you can see it on your phone.
There it is. Yep.
There's a clothing on the left, and then on the right you have like a little bar area, and
sofas. And...
you can help not all the time there are people back there. They put stuff out on the buffet, and you can do things yourself back there. But it's a cool concept, and in addition to that, they also have the shower in first class, right, where you can take a shower in flight also as well, which is kind of a cool gig.
Well, we'll see how long my Avios miles last if I start spending them on Qatar Airways. That's on
Emirates though. So
I mean, excuse me, on Emirates. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you use your Chase points to transfer to that, or Capital One points.
Yes. Speaking. Well, let me.
It's a little bit of a. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't put on our list of things to talk about Capital One, the new Capital One card thing that, I did let's get to Capital One in just a second. I just want to add one more thing to the Ukraine thing we forgot to touch on, which is that I think both Boeing and Airbus and perhaps other companies that sell airline parts to Russia have said they're not shipping any more parts. That's not good for Russia.
It's there's bad news all around. I mean, gosh, it's I don't know what to say. It's I don't know how long it's going to last, but you know what happens? People get hungry. People can't get around. People run out of stuff, and all of a sudden, people start getting antsy. And then all of a sudden, the guy who's in charge, his army has been reduced dramatically in the last few days, and these Ukrainians seems to be taking out a lot of the stuff that he has. So Oh, it's going to be interesting to see, but hopefully they can, he will restrain himself, and there will be some sort of peace before that happens.
Your lips to God's ears. Capital One. We didn't put this on our notes, but I just gotten to think of Capital One. I wanted to talk to you about. I don't know if you saw it, but Capital One has tied in with the celebrity chef from Washington D.C. who. What's his name? Jose Andres. My gosh, I've known him 30 years. Jose Andres, by the way, who has set up free food operation in I think either in Poland or Hungary for the refugees who are coming in from Ukraine. But anyway, if you get this Capital One card, they have gotten agreements in 33 cities from some of the hard to get into restaurants to reserve a few tables every night for a Capital One diner. And I don't have a Capital One card. I've got a lot of cards, but not a Capital One. Do you have one, Tommy?
Absolutely. It's my new favorite card. The new Capital One Venture X card is phenomenal. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a huge fan of that card. And I think that it's a card definitely everybody should take a look at.
Is this for reasons beyond this new dining thing where we can get you in the hard to get into restaurants?
Yeah, but I'm not as fancy as you, Rudy. So I don't really go to that. I only go to fancy restaurants when you're with me. I don't go.
I see it. Okay, but you like the card for other reasons. Why?
Absolutely. So I like it because so there's a lot of stuff going on in the miles and points and hotel worlds, and there are many reasons to like this card. First of all, the sign-up bonus of 100,000 points is completely worth it.
Okay.
Also, that they're building their own lounges around the U.S. You get access to all of the same lounges you get with a priority pass in the U.S. So they're, the club and all those things. It comes with a priority pass, but they're building their own lounges. It's opening at Dulles. It's already open in Dallas, and it's not crowded at all like all these other ones. I went to this last weekend. We had our show in D.C. Together. I traveled home, and there's a big sign outside that, you can't get in unless you're, it's a 45-minute wait. So
what club was that, Tommy? What airline?
Pardon? That was at Newark at the United Club that I saw there. So at the end of so it's obviously that's not relevant. But if you have an American Express Platinum card, the Platinum card also the Platinum card gives you a
Delta access.
Yeah, so it gives you Delta when you are flying Delta.
When you're flying Delta. Well, I was flying Delta yesterday. I went to have dinner one night. I flew from St. Paul to Phoenix one night to have dinner with a buddy in Phoenix I hadn't seen in 2 years. And when I came off the plane here in Minneapolis, St. Paul at noon, which is a big time when people are changing flights, I went in the main Delta lounge, which is normally, pretty accessible. I mean, plenty of places. I was amazed. There was a line of people just to show their cards to get in the club. And then I had to search a little while to find a seat to sit in. So, yeah, I mean, and American Express, of course, has its own Centurion lounges, but it sounds like Capital One, because they're new, they don't have all that many people who have clued into it. But anyway, that's some good news.
Yeah, and also I think that the best use for it is that they own travel portal. So hear me out on this. So we both of us, you're globalist with Hyatt, you are platinum with Marriott. I'm lifetime titanium with Marriott, and I'm also globalist with Hyatt. But there is a new as we see that Hyatt has increased some prices, it's still a worthwhile program in my opinion. I think Hyatt World of Hyatt is, but Marriott is. We stayed this weekend, and we've had this debate for a couple of months. We've looking at this card, and it's like, is hotel status, is it worth having that anymore? When it comes to Hyatt, I would say venture into saying yes. But when it comes to Marriott, absolutely not. I think that Marriott, with the changes that are making now, they have you have to see what you get back from being loyal and booking directly. So the only reason why you book directly is to get those status things in your points with Marriott. But it just doesn't. I'm struggling finding value in this anymore. I just can't see the value in booking directly anymore. So we checked in. We were this weekend. You were at the Grand Hyatt living it up, and we were, because of our hotel reviews that we're doing. Jamie was at the Courtyard and next door at the Residence Inn. I checked in. I got the room that I booked, the lowest end, and he was like, asked if she had a one bedroom instead of the the studio I'd booked. And she looked like a big question mark. No, we have to pay for that. And I was like, no, you don't, because that's part of the deal.
Because you're Titanium and Marriott, you should have
right, lifetime Titanium, and it was just a surreal thing that happened. And then what was my return for the weekend? So I got a couple thousand points. I got when I checked in, my welcome amenity was a bottle of water and an item from the pantry. So a box of Skittle for $250 and a bottle of water, or 500 or 250 points or whatever it was, plus whatever points you earn. That's it. So internet's free for everybody. I got the room I booked. So guess what? When you book via the Capital One portal, which it's Capital One Travel is the name of the portal, you actually get 10 times 10x the dollar spent on hotel stays. So I was like, we started looking into that, and I booked. And when you are staying at hotels that are no service or low service, or like lower end properties that doesn't have upgrades, and you get
club
free
floor,
breakfast and all that kind of stuff. If you're staying at a hotel that has breakfast included, or you're staying at a hotel that is that doesn't offer very much for elites, I mean, which is kind of the majority of them, right? Why would you? Why would you? What's the reasoning? So the return of investment that I got instead. So if I spend $500, that means I earn 5,000 Capital One points instead of earning a couple of thousand, not even a Marriott points for the stay I had this weekend. That's the good thing about this card. And the good thing about it also has a ton of discounts, right? And when you log into the portal, I can share it with you here. I booked actually when we're going to Myrtle Beach for Melinda's dad's birthday. We booked. It's. Let me show you share the screen with you. You go ahead and chat, and I'll pull it up here.
By the way, I should say we're not selling anything here.
No. We're talking about a credit
I just know Capital One had added some benefits to its card. I don't have one, so I thought I'd ask Tommy about it. But so far, you're saying thumbs down on Marriott's frequent flyer. Hotel loyalty point program. First of all, they're about to change the numbers, not necessarily consumer friendly by the end of by I think right about now.
Right.
And so you're saying, so the reason we're talking about Capital One is because they've come out with this new offering, and I don't understand much about it. And Tommy's. But by the way, Tommy, this is the first time I've done one of our webcasts on my phone. Right. I can't see if anybody's asking any questions. So I will trust you. We'll see if there are any comments that need answering.
There's a guy who wants us to sign up for the newsletter. I think that, Frank, if you send an email to info@maxatours.com or go to maxatours.com in the top right corner. It didn't work, you said. So send us an email at info@maxatours.com, and Melinda will.
Or try maxatours.com/newsletter. Should take you right to it.
Yeah, he tried to, but it doesn't seem like it.
Well, that's weird. I just signed somebody up today. Anyway, yeah. So just go to maxatours.com and scroll to the bottom of the screen. Okay, back to Capital One.
Yeah. So this is the. It doesn't seem like the good deals that I had that was here before are here right now that we saw earlier. But I booked a hotel here and saved $86 per night, which for two
versus
hotels.
What? Booking it on Marriott?
This is the Capital One portal.
I know, but you said you saved $86. How? By not?
I saved. So we have two hotel rooms we're booking for the weekend in June, and I booked the two hotel rooms with the Capital One portal. It's not even prepaid, and they have decent. Very often they have decent offers that are cheaper than booking directly with the hotel, and that was the case. So we booked a Hilton that's on the beach, and see if we can find it here a little bit further up the beach. But as you can see, where the red thing goes through, it's only like $10. This hotel, the Hampton Inn, for example, $474 per night is the price if you book from Hilton, $451 if you book here. Both are not prepaid. As you can see, it includes free breakfast. There literally is no upgrades to be had. And you get a handful of Hilton Honors points, and here you can instead get You know, if you have
10 times.
2 rooms like you have, it's just better value. You have to look at and what can you use Capital One points for? You can transfer it to 16 different airlines and hotel programs.
Right.
So the
Okay.
obviously
I'm sold.
No, but it's just time to take a look. I mean, we shouldn't blindly, you know, the airlines have been doing this for a while, and American now had a whammy again. You know, literally, just there isn't they just were, you know, the new loyalty points with American. You earn more loyalty points by booking hotels through their portal, booking other things, signing up for stuff, buying flowers, all sorts of stuff, more so, which has been the case for a while, but now it's more even apparent, meaning that you can actually just use an American Airlines credit card and spend your way to their top tier executive platinum, which is crazy. I mean, it's
you don't have to fly X number of miles.
You have to, in order to get those system-wide upgrades, you have to fly, I think it's 32 or 36 miles, 36 flights per year. So it's not like you don't have to fly at all. But if you are okay without those, you will still get, you know, on the top of the, there's no discrimination on where you're on the upgrade list, and what you get access to, and the 3 bags you can check for free and all that stuff. It's just unbelievably crazy how this is turning out. And, you know, they've had this, the other guys, you know, it's all about how much money you spend on an airline, which I think it's fine, but you have to be critical about these programs and not just gulp it up. You have to, you know, look at it and take some time and read it through and check it out. Look at some blogs, look at the pointsguy.com or look at 1mileatatime.com and see these guys who are following this stuff, like with the Pulse or any site that's in the miles and points space, because there is a change going on now, and it's definitely time to take a closer look. And this Capital One thing, it's like, if it's a hotel that includes breakfast and that doesn't have any benefits for me to do it, I'm going to book with them instead of booking directly, which means that they have to pay a commission. The Marriott needs to pay a commission, and maybe they'll think about it before they start cutting benefits and increasing their redemption prices.
All right, let's turn to COVID. You know, a lot of countries are making it a lot easier for Americans to visit, except for Hong Kong, which about a week ago banned passenger flights from 8 countries, including the United States, because they say we still don't have COVID under control. So I don't know how long that's going to last. But again, check with each country, because for England, basically, really all you have to do is do the test before you return to the United States on a flight. And that's not England's rule. That's America's rule. Do you think the United States is going to drop that soon, Tommy?
Yeah, it's probably about I would say mid-April. It's going to be gone. That's the indication.
This is a test requiring you to have a negative test 24 days before you board your flight back to the United States. Doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated. Doesn't matter what nationality you are. You can't get on a flight of any airline coming to the United States unless they know you have a negative test. And you know what, Tommy, talk for a minute about that. Let me get that test that I've been taking in my hotel room, so I don't have to find a pharmacy or whatever. I'll just show a box of it. Bear with me.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, these are the self-tests that you got from the government, or you could buy them at Walgreens or Costco and whatnot. It costs like $30 or $39.95 for 4 or 6 of them. I did the first test like that when I was traveling to the UK. When you arrive in the country, when you arrived in the country before Omicron, I took. It was funny because it just shows how senseless this can be. So I was going to the UK, and the test that you have, I took one. I picked one up. So the way it worked for back in November, or mid-November, I flew from LA, and I was on a Tuesday to land in London on a Wednesday, to have a meeting on Thursday and go back Friday morning. And there was 72 hours or 3 days before. So technically, I could take a test here in California and use that test to enter back into California, which makes absolutely no sense at all.
No.
So that was the rules back then. But when I landed in the UK, I picked up one of those tests that you have there. I did it in my hotel room. It had to be videoed so they could see that I was actually doing it. Yeah, something like that. And is that the one from the government, or?
No, the government doesn't send you these. These you've got to buy. This is different than your standard home testing kit. This you cannot open. until you're on camera with somebody from EMED. And they have to watch you open this box. They read the QR code on it. And it's like a home testing kit. You do a shallow nose swab, no big deal. Put it in the liquid, wait 15 minutes, but they watch you every step of the way.
Right.
And then after 15 minutes, you pull up your thing. You say, if it shows negative, they tell your airline right away. I mean, it's automatically put on your airline.
And that's valid for traveling into the U.S.?
Yes. Yes. So it's not like home testing, because you can't open it up and do it anytime you want and show anything. You have to buy this kit before you go. You can't buy it when you're overseas.
Right.
And you give yourself a test the day before you catch your flight back to the States, and they'll help you out. So you've got to just search for it's an Abbott Binax Now, which is the same name. So I'm going the wrong way. Binax Now, which is the same name as the home testing kits. Right. But this one is EMED. Again, you're going to talk to somebody in India who's going to watch you open the box, going to watch you perform the test, going to watch those results for 15 minutes, and then see the result. You'll hold it up to them, and you're in. So that is one way to satisfy the American government's rule that before returning to the States, you give yourself a little test and come negative. A lot easier. Right. In France, you can almost any pharmacy will do it, but they'll $16 or something. But maybe you want to do it at 11 at night, and there's no pharmacy open because your flight's the next morning at 10 or something.
Right.
And by the way, since France is such a popular destination, I will just tell you that right now, if you go to France, if you land at Charles de Gaulle, as most Americans do, most of the terminals in Charles de Gaulle have pharmacies in them. If you go in and show them your United States vaccination card showing that you're at least double vaxxed, I don't know if they're asking for boosters right now yet, just pay them they don't give you a test. Just pay them $36, I think it is. And they give you a piece of paper with a QR code on it, which you use. It's still required in France to get into restaurants and bars, etc. What else do we have to talk about?
That where you in order to get in, you have to show
vaccination. Yeah, that could change too soon. But Australia says they're about to open their borders to Americans because they've been closed for a long time. Right. And and a couple short things before we say goodbye. The Wall Street Journal every year dissects all the Department of Transportation stats on airlines, looking at their on-time arrivals, mishandled baggage, involuntary bumping, and so on.
Right.
And they rank the 9 of the country's major airlines, and Delta won by a wide margin this year, with Alaska and Southwest coming in second and third place. JetBlue came in last place, which surprised me because they have such a good reputation for service. But I guess perhaps East Coast weather really threw their stats off, or baggage handling, something did. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting.
I don't think that when it comes to that surprises me as well when it comes to luggage handling. JetBlue has not the best on-time performance, even if they're known for good service, mostly because their main airport is JFK. So it's which is a nightmare in and of itself. So that's that's the main reason why you see that year round, not even with weather related stuff, you'll have a lot of delays.
Right. We have a lot of other things to cover. I don't know that we need anything crucial that our audience needs to know now. Let me I have all these notes here that what we're going to talk about. I think we're good. I think we can wrap it up. But listen, if you enjoy, by the way, let me repeat what I said at the beginning. I should have said it 15 minutes into it. We are recording this conversation on March 3rd, 2022. So the information we're talking about now, we believe is correct at this point. If you're watching this a month later or a year later, things will be very different, COVID-wise, and we hope Ukraine-wise. But keep in mind, this is March 3rd of 2022. Tommy Danielsen and I own a company called Maxa Tours. They're a very small group, upscale European tours. You can find details at maxatours.com. We've got some Christmas market tours going this year, and we hope 2023, we've got those tours up too. We hope 2023 will be a full complement of tours, which we haven't had. Certainly in 2020 and 2021, we did nothing because couldn't do it.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of interest now. We just had another couple today and one couple yesterday, and a full array of stuff this week. And so we're seeing demand is coming definitely back. And
good.
And in addition to the Christmas market tours, we also have obviously the Scandinavian tours coming up, both the last week of May or the May 22nd, and also in September. We've got a Scandinavian tour that's happening, which are the ones that still have some availability on it.
And if you and every 2 weeks, we put out a newsletter. I put out a newsletter on what's hot in travel, issues that we've been talking about today, for example. and sort of, might be my favorite new restaurant in Los Angeles or favorite 3 restaurants in Paris or advice on points and credit cards, etc. It's free. All you have to do is go to maxatours.com/newsletter to sign up. Although somebody earlier this hour said they're having trouble with that. I haven't had any trouble lately, but
yeah, I just tried it. It works fine. So it might be maybe some sort of security measures and things like that.
Yeah. Anyway, subscribe to the newsletter. It's free. It's every 2 weeks. We don't sell your name to anybody. We don't sell you pitches. It's not about our tours. It's a journalist. I'm a journalist by training, so it's a journalistic production about what's current in travel at the time I write it. So you're welcome to do that. So Tommy, I guess we say goodbye. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. We'll have a guest, I know. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Anything else, Tommy?
Thanks for having me on, and hope everybody stays safe. And we'll see you out there. Get out there and travel. Now's the time to get out there and travel for sure.
You live in Sacramento or outside of Sacramento. You're a Yankees fan?
I am. I used to I'm originally from Norway, but my first job after college was to be. I did training. I worked for a cable company, and I did training in New York City, and that's how I became a Yankees fan. And ironically, also that was in the '90s, and now we have a strike again. So.
Yeah, it's a mixed up world. All right. Thanks so much for joining Tommy and me. Talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Meanwhile, stay safe, travel well, and let's underline the first thing. Stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Ciao.